You saw Candace? Candy's nuts? No, yeah. You mean the debate? I just watched it. Make sure to like and share the stream. Like and share the stream. Make sure to like and share. The people need to see this. What's up, 4Racer? Yes, this is from wrestling. Dana White says, how do we get rid of libs permanently? Good question, Dana. Yo, comrades. How's it going? I don't know if the Candace Owens debate will be as hot of a topic on TikTok as it is on Twitter. I was kind of hoping it would be so we could get a bunch of live viewers today. But I don't know. We'll see. You excited for the UFC? Yeah, I'm excited for Islam. Makhachev, he's my favorite fighter right now, so I'm excited for that. The rest of the card is kind of meh. Do you ever plan on visiting China? I just got back from there. Oh, lucky you. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Just had to visit Russia first. I got to drive some of the Chinese EVs in Russia. So that was my first taste of China. Will you ever debate Dean? Yeah, as soon as he stops ducking me. Blocked by Parker today? What did you do? Parker still follows me somehow. It's like every time I make a video like cooking him, it gets sent right to his DMs. It's like one of these days he's going to unfollow me. But I've known Parker forever. Which is why I go hard on him, because I'm disappointed in him for selling out. Because there was a time when he was much less of a sellout. Then he just became like Democrat talking point machine. Opinion on the right wave that's sweeping Latin America? That is a long topic. It is a long and interesting discussion. It's a combination of the left dropping the ball and foreign influence, of course. But yeah, we could talk more in depth about that, maybe. He used to be a commie, yeah. Yeah, and he was reading like State and Revolution and stuff, and we would talk about it a little bit. Not a ton. I don't want to act like we were best friends, but I do remember one conversation about how he was talking about like the state under a capitalist system. And I was like, damn, Parker's been reading his theory. And he responded something like, oh yeah, it's all coming together. And I was like, nice. And then I got banned from TikTok and he became a Democratic Party operative. So, thoughts on Keith Woods? I don't know much about him other than that debate he did with Haas, but it's the same as every freaking white nationalist. They have no solutions for our country. They don't understand. They think like if we did DEI policies for white people and like deported more people, all of a sudden America's problems would be fixed. It's just so stupid. Why does America still allow the ACP while continuing to manufacture fear for communism? There's no left-wing group in America that's been shut down other than, like, Black Hammer. I wouldn't call that left-wing. I would call that a deranged sex cult. God, my live's going to get restricted for saying that. That Ghazi guy who said Anne Frank was a colonizer. That guy was fucking so unhinged, bro. That's, like, the only left-wing group I can think of that's actually been shut down so far. But former ACP member Chris Halali and current ACP International Secretary Jackson Hinkle have Randy Fine and other congressmen are begging Marco Rubio to arrest them, even though they're both in Russia, so I don't know how he would do that. And Laura Loomer came after us today, and you can expect more of that to continue. And Laura Loomer, of course, has the ear of Trump and everybody in the administration. In your opinion, who won the debate between Dean Withers and Jesus and whatnot? Bro, I thought everyone was going to be talking about the Candace Owens, Andrew Wilson debate. Like, is that not what people are interested in right now? Thank you for the roses. I did not even see that Dean Withers debate. Did somebody cook his ass? The debate was bad. Which one? The Andrew Wilson one versus Candace? Nobody give a F about Candace. Bro, that is not true. The debate already has 2 million views, and it was uploaded like 5 minutes ago. It had 250,000 concurrent viewers. What are we talking about here? Nobody cares. Clearly they do. Just clearly my audience doesn't care. But you should, man. You should. Like, there's a lot of evidence that Charlie Kirk was turning against Israel at the end of his life, and that Andrew Wilson and others are part of a massive, like, influencer operation to basically call that a conspiracy and cover up, or prevent any investigation into what actually went down. And, you know, I went into the debate with an open mind because obviously I'm not like a Candace simp. Probably every video I've made about Candace on this app has been criticizing her for her opinions about communism and the Bolsheviks, right? But, you know, I was a little bit... I hate Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson's a scumbag. You know, he's like the human embodiment of like a middle school libertarian Redditor. But anyways, I tried to go in unbiased, but like Andrew Wilson just made himself look so bad. He was using all these underhanded debate tactics that people use when they're like being paid to push a certain position, or when they're just not confident in their knowledge of a certain subject. One second. It just turned out so bad for him. And he paid her $300,000 to do that debate. He paid her $300,000 to cook his ass, which is crazy and leads me to believe that he was definitely part of some kind of influence operation to tell people to not question the Tyler Robinson case. Because he only has like 300,000 subscribers on YouTube, which, you know, I don't have that many, but I have 60,000 subscribers on YouTube. And I make, at most, if I'm streaming like multiple times a week on YouTube, I make maybe, I don't know, $600 to at most $1,000 a month from it. So there's no way that dude just had $300,000 sitting around to spend on a debate. TPUSA, allegedly, according to me, in my opinion, gave him that money to debate Candace and call her a conspiracy theorist and say, stop asking questions about Charlie Kirk. And, you know, actually, there was a really good article by a guy named, you know, I don't know his actual name. It's Sean something. We're mutuals on Twitter. Sean something or other. But he's a Marxist. And he wrote an article about why left-wingers should care about the Charlie Kirk thing. Because even though, you know, Charlie Kirk has kind of been turned into a meme, and, like, he obviously wasn't ideologically aligned with us, neither was JFK. You know, JFK was a liberal, but he started talking shit about Israel and talking about the CIA, and all of a sudden he goes bye-bye. And anybody who questioned it was called a conspiracy theorist. And obviously this is something that left-wingers should care about. So it's the same thing with Charlie Kirk, you know. He's talking about how he doesn't trust Israeli donors, and they're mad at him for talking to Tucker Carlson and these people questioning Israel. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. And all of a sudden he goes away, and there's all this suspicious stuff like that Andrew Wilson couldn't explain. He was not even well prepared for that debate. He couldn't even name the 7 things that Tyler Robinson is being charged with. But they paved over the crime scene the day after. That is so ludicrous, bro. That they called in some guy and they said it was a concrete emergency and that they needed him to come in and pave over it right away. You don't touch a crime scene when it's still being investigated. The fact that they said the weapon was a 30-06, which would have, like, you know, made a much more gruesome hole in a person. Trying to be careful with my words here so I don't get banned on TikTok. Like, there's so much weird stuff. And there's so much stuff I didn't know about, even, with the particulars of the case. But that article by my friend Sean, and then the Candace debate really showed that these people who say there's overwhelming evidence that it was some crazy leftist who unalived Charlie Kirk, which is a very convenient narrative for the ruling elite and the people who now control TPUSA to keep, working class people, liberal and conservative, at each other's throats, hating each other, calling each other the violent ones. It's a very convenient narrative for them that it was some, like, gay, furry guy who shot Charlie Kirk for, being against trans people in sports or whatever. It's a very, very convenient narrative, and there's no explanation for a lot of this stuff. Like, how are you going to explain that they paved over the crime scene, bro? Come on. Do you think it was Mossad? In my opinion, at this point, I think the Mossad and the CIA are essentially merged. Right? I think they're one and the same. Israeli and U.S. intelligence are basically the same. So a combination of U.S. and Israeli intelligence would be my guess. There's no proof of that, but, like, you have to look at who benefits from every major event, And if there was overwhelming evidence that it was some, like, furry leftist who did it, I'm not saying that that's an implausible conclusion, but there's a lot of holes in that theory. There's no overwhelming evidence. There is evidence that points to the idea that this Tyler Robinson character was a patsy, kind of like Lee Harvey Oswald. But that would be my guess. We'll never know for sure, but that would be my guess. Do you really think there are non-proletarian workers? Can we stay on topic for once, bro? Can you guys ask me relevant questions, please? It's always just the most random shit. What's your thoughts on distributionism? What do you think about the way that elephants were treated in the Soviet Union? What do you think about Stalin and Tito's dispute on what the best communist color was of the rainbow? But anyways, yeah, like a financier or a stockbroker, or somebody who works for, like, Raytheon and Boeing and, like, a paper pushing job, or like a hedge fund manager. Yeah, they're technically working, but they ain't fucking proletarian. Communism never worked. Yeah, okay, buddy, tell that to China. They're living in the future while your cities are being turned into drug dens. You're like, communism doesn't work. We got it figured out right here in America. Where living standards have been getting worse for the last 40 years. While China builds high-speed rail connecting their entire country. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Only our system works. I love being in medical debt. Cuck. Oh my gosh, stop spamming me. Are service workers proletarian? More or less. It's definitely a different type of labor than, like, blue-collar labor. I guess you would have to define, you'd have to give me what service work you're talking about specifically, but, like, there's nothing wrong with organizing, like, baristas or whatever, but I call it the pressure point theory. So I'm less concerned, like, definitionally, are these people proletarian? And I would have to... Yo, I'm Odysseus. Who here knows Odysseus? Who here knows Odysseus? Was he a beggar? Was he a prisoner? Rick! I'm tired of these walkers. Inside joke there, if you know John Bernthal. You're so hot. Bro, stop hitting on me. Who is this freak in my comments? The hell was I talking about? Service workers? Oh, yeah, but blue-collar labor has more power politically. Because if baristas were to go on strike, like a national strike, we would just, like, not have coffee for a while. We'd have to make it ourselves. But if, like, the rail workers all went on strike, they could shut down the entire national economy. So that's all I really care about. Imagine being communist, LOL, bro. Imagine being capitalist in 2012. You're, like, drowning in credit card debt and medical debt, and your cousin's addicted to opium that the big pharmaceutical companies gave them. You're about to go get your freaking 12th vaccine booster from Walgreens. And you're like, yeah, this system's working awesome. This is great. Thank you, T-Jack. I love how much money the pharmaceutical industry has made off me and my family. I love never being able to retire. And then meanwhile, you have China over there, where even, like, fourth-tier cities now have a better standard of living than any place in the U.S., where the average retirement age is, like, 60 and dropping. And they have their whole country connected via high-speed rail. And you're like, no, what are you going to do? Take out the credit card companies? What are you going to do? Get rid of the banks? That's communism. That's ridiculous. I love being railed in my butt by the banks every day. I'm a real man. I'm not some wimpy communist who actually fights back against the banks and the politicians who are in the Epstein files. I'm a big tough guy conservative who loves drowning in debt. Fiscal responsibility. What you guys don't realize is that when you hate communism, you're just admitting that you're cucked. You're like, yes, Joseph McCarthy. And yes, the American ruling class. Yes, Donald Trump, who hangs out on Epstein's island and says he doesn't care that American workers are struggling because he wants to fight a war against Iran on behalf of the big banks and the freaking weapons industry in Israel. You're like, yes, I agree with you. Communism is so bad. Please continue to do what you're doing. You're so right, guys. You're so right, everyone who is in the Epstein files. Communism sucks. Literally, communism is just fighting back against those people and creating a new government that actually serves workers. It's common sense, and if you don't support it, you're honestly just a bitch. I don't know what else to tell you. If it's not random, I was just kidding. You guys can ask me random questions. I was just like, I'm just being funny today. I thought people would want to talk about the debate, but nobody really cares. Lol, they're literally authoritarian, LMAO. Yeah, good point, buddy. Good point. You realize the NSA could read what you just typed? Your own government has admitted to spying on citizens for no reason. Other than, actually, for the reason of stopping them from actually revolting. Yeah, you can either have the authority of the working class or you can have the authority of the Epstein class. And you choose to not assert your own authority and just accept the authority of the class that's already in power over every aspect of your life. Tips on reading Capital. It's not even that hard, honestly, once you get into it. You just gotta, like, slow down and recognize Marx's style of argument. Like, right away in every chapter, he'll be saying a lot of stuff, and it'll sound a little bit crazy, right? But realize that he's just setting, like, the premise for his argument or what he's going to investigate in that chapter. So it'll be like, this means that, and that means the other, and you'll be like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. And then he'll go into this, like, complex explanation and investigation, which can be a little bit dry, but it's also interesting. And then at the end, he'll loop back to what he said at the beginning. And if you read the investigation, you'll actually understand it. You'll be like, oh, I see why this means that and that means the other. And then once you get used to that style of argument and investigation, it's really not that hard to read. Maybe that sounds crazy because I know Capital's like 8 million pages, but I don't know, it's the most fun I've ever had reading a book because there's just so much in there and it explains so much about what's wrong with our system today. Why do you consider China communist? Because they're a one-party state governed by the Communist Party of China that owns all of the land and most of the major industries, and they only allow private investment in special economic zones that are controlled by the party. And their main goal is to direct social surplus towards the people, which is why they've abolished absolute poverty faster than which no other country in human history has ever done. I mean, like, if the U.S. hasn't done that yet and China has, they've got to be doing something different than us, right? And that difference is that their economy is guided by the Communist Party. And they have a lot of social ownership and investment in social welfare programs and infrastructure and manufacturing. I mean, they're socialists. They're governed by a Communist Party in the early stages of socialism. And they say that themselves. They're in the very early stages of socialism. Like, what they have planned for the future is like next level. They're planning to put people on the moon to live there and study it for real. You can look that up. It's crazy shit. Oh, I had another point about China. The banks are all publicly owned. Oh, yeah, and like if what has become like integral to the American political system, which is corporate lobbying, to the point where all of the bills that get passed, and you guys should know this as Americans, the bills that get passed in our government are written by corporate lobbying groups. There are these groups who are paid by corporations to make policy that benefits those corporations. And they write the bills and they hand them to some congressman and fund his campaign and give him a bunch of advertising and money to make sure that these bills get passed. And then they'll fund other congressmen to make sure that they vote yes. And of course the president too, but that's just one guy. But he does have veto power, so. But anyways, if you tried that in China, if a corporation tried to like lobby the government to pass something, they would be thrown in prison or schmecked. Thank you. So, that's also a huge difference. What if the U.S. was a socialist nation with no billionaires? I think it should be a socialist nation where everyone's a billionaire. Opinion on monarcho-Brezhnevism. Bro, what is your profile picture right now? What? It's freaking Brezhnev with like the Sonnenrad. There's no end to the ideologies that you guys will come up with. It literally never ends. Monarcho-Brezhnevism makes fucking neo-libertarian phalangism look like child's play. That is the most absurd ideology I've ever heard. Can you explain to me what monarcho-Brezhnevism is? Can you come up here and explain that to me?
What's up, sir?
What's up?
What up, bro?
Yeah, can you explain to me what monarcho-Brezhnevism entails as an ideological outlook?
So it's like basically monarchism, but like Brezhnevism, you know?
That's all you got?
I mean, like, it takes, it's like, I'm like the modern day, like, Plato or something like that. Like, I'm a genius.
Dude, this is just a cheap knockoff of neo-libertarian phalangism, bro. The nice thing about the neo-libertarian phalangist guy is he can come up and, like, ramble for, like, 20 minutes about what neo-libertarian phalangism entails. And he can explain what libertarianism is and phalangism is. And then he has a bunch of jokes that go off of that, like, I support increasing taxes on the poor and, like, getting rid of taxes on the rich, and it's very funny. Okay, you need to step your game up, monarcho-Brezhnevist. I'm in the shower, bro, I would explain. Why is everyone doing TikTok debates in the bathtub lately? Did you watch Bad Empanada's video on Bosnian G-side? No, I'll watch it. Do you support a Bolshevik Revolutionary Workers' Party in the U.S.? I mean, yeah, it probably wouldn't be called the Bolsheviks as a specifically Russian name, but that's what we're trying to build, bro. How do you feel about China's tobacco industry, though? Watched the Fern video about it recently. What about it? Yee-haw! Thank you, Ella. Thank you, darling. What about their tobacco industry? My friend owned a tobacco farm, and we would help him work it sometimes. The wacky tobacco. No, that's what they call the devil's lettuce. What is this? I don't know. People have a right to use tobacco, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't smoke tobacco or even chew tobacco. But, like, I honestly don't think it should be outlawed. Like, why? Like, people take risks in life. Do you ever just feel hopeless about this? Not really. Not really. I truly believe in people. And, I believe in the class struggle. And, like the people, I don't know if people have the right conception of like what's been going on recently in America. Like, yes, people are like not just becoming Marxist-Leninists en masse or like communists en masse, but the government has like totally lost legitimacy. On the left and the right, everyone I talk to freaking despises the two-party system and despises the existing state of things and despises Congress and hates the endless wars and the corruption, and they're up in arms about the Epstein files. Like, our job isn't to be hopeless. Our job is to go educate those people and give them a path forward. Give them an organization, which is what I'm trying to do with the ACP, which you can join at acp.us. Give them an organization that they can join to actually fight against those things, to fight against U.S. imperialism, and, to expose the Epstein wrongdoers, and to actually understand why the capitalist system functions the way that it does and traps us in debt and sends our money and our kids to war like it does. But the conditions are there. Like, people already hate the system. Yeah, they've been brainwashed with anti-communist slop, but, like, that's going away too. There was a poll recently that, like, Gen Z or Gen Alpha or whatever the hell, I forget the generations. Whatever. I'm technically Gen Z. I'm like the oldest Gen Z. I'm right in between Gen Z and millennial. Our generation, or pretty much everyone younger than me, I'm 29, they have a more favorable view of socialism than capitalism, and their positivity towards communism is quickly on the rise. It's like 40%. So even that's going away. Like, the conditions are ripe for something, but there's no real organization right now other than, I believe, the ACP, which is young, and still growing and building and has a lot of work to do still. But that's why I'm not hopeless, because I'm involved in the work of building a communist party every day, and I've seen like what the Florida ACP chapter is doing, where they're deeply ingrained in their community. They have a community farm that they invite people to. They do martial arts classes because they own their own gym. They do self-defense with pew-pews as well. They don't own their own firing range yet. That'd be freaking cool. Future goals. But they have a community kitchen where they put together hundreds of meals every single week in an extremely disciplined fashion and give them to the community. And because of this, they're meeting new people and building connections. And every time they do one of these, they also do an education session so people can get educated about the system. Thank you, Riz. So I see things like this going on the ground, and I'm like, all we have to do, bro, is replicate this. All we have to do is take what these guys are doing here, which is leading to the growth of the American Communist Party, and do it everywhere in the country. It's that simple. Meet people's needs, give them education. They already hate the system, bro. You don't have to convince people that the system is against them. If you do, they're probably like the owner of a bank or a Wall Street shareholder or something. Even like small business owners hate the system at this point because it's against them too, right? This isn't like Russia in 1917 when capitalism is just beginning to develop. It's what Lenin talks about in imperialism. It's the era of monopolies and finance capital, the big banks. And they don't give a shit about small business owners. They want to monopolize every single market and make it harder and harder for regular people to start a business. Thank you. Who was that? Thank you, Che. El Che. So, and being blackpilled doesn't do anything. I get it, like, you're going to have depression. Our system is designed to, like, inundate you with depression. You're going to have those moments. You're going to, like, look around and be like, oh my gosh, everything is screwed. You're going to read some comment left by an FBI agent that says, capitalism is good and all the revolutionary governments around the world are bad. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, we don't deserve communism. You're going to have those moments, for sure. But in general, things are much better now. Like, I always think about, imagine the 90s. Imagine the 90s, bro. The Soviet Union just fell. Kind of went to shit because of, like, traitors on the inside and U.S. imperialism putting pressure on the outside. China looks like they're heading towards neoliberalism, even though they weren't ultimately. And everybody was like, communism's dead. It's over. It's gone. This is just what we have. That was a depressing time. That's why I have so much respect for Michael Parenti and Cuba and the DPRK, because like anybody who kept fighting during that time and didn't just become a liberal, because a lot of communists, including those in the Communist Party USA, and unfortunately Angela Davis, even though I have respect for her, they became liberals at that time. They just gave up. They threw in the towel and said, whatever, I'm just going to go along with the system that's in power right now. Because even if communism makes a comeback, it's going to take a long time. But just 35 or 36 years later, you have China cracking down, launching massive anti-corruption campaigns, reinvigorating Marxism-Leninism in their society, deepening their poverty alleviation programs, leading to the abolition of absolute poverty. And you have an explicitly Marxist-Leninist country that's now leading the world. And you have a resurgence of communism in America. The internet, even though the internet is still deeply controlled by feds, it is better as a form of communication and education and outreach than, the corporate media, which we had no access to. Back in the day, people like Parenti would just go on public access television and lecture to like 20 people. Now I'm talking to over 100 of you right now just from my phone. I go in my living room and turn my phone on and I can lecture about Marxism to over 100 people. And sure, I'll get shadow banned and my accounts have been, outright banned and stuff like that. But I can always just make another one. They can't stop the truth now as much as they used to be able to. And they've tried. Larry Ellison, the world's largest donor to the IDF, bought this app. Laura Loomer is angling for a position at the Department of Homeland Security so she can suppress groups like mine and voices like mine and yours. They can try, but you can only censor the truth for so long. And modern technology is making it easier and easier to get that truth out there, regardless of their efforts to suppress it. That is the general truth of the internet era and, the era of technology that we live in. So, sorry, that was a really long rant, but no, I'm not black-pilled at all. Should I break up with my girl? Man, you coming to me for life advice? You're going to have to give me more information than that, brother. I can't give you dating advice unless I know the situation. Eddie, which is worse, ECP or CTE? I know some people who probably have CTE who are pretty based. So I'm going to go with the ECP. That last guy was trouble, Marks. Have you heard of Dr. Shiva? Dr. Shiva's hilarious, bro. Bridget O'Quillan, who does her podcast, what's it called? Probably Canceled. She does her podcast in conjunction with Midwestern Marks. We help her produce her podcast, and she uploads it on our channel so it can have more outreach. And we, of course, benefit from that as well. She interviewed Dr. Shiva, and I was laughing out loud. Like, I don't agree with him on everything, but, like, the energy that he has is based. He'll just be like, Marco Rubio, that stupid piece of shit. Just, like, go off, and he's a doctor, but he'll just, like, cuss people out, and he's so angry at the ruling class. I love it. What do you think is the worst leftist ideology? I mean, using the broad category of leftist, because, like, for me, left-wing just means fighting for progress and fighting against the existing establishment. If you want to overthrow the existing establishment, you're left-wing. And I would say, I guess that even includes, like, anarchists, even though I think they have the wrong idea. Thank you, monarcho-Brezhnevist. I would still include them in, like, left-wing if they do want to overthrow the existing establishment. But, like, leftists, like, you could even put liberals in there if you're talking about America. Like, most people think liberals are left, but they don't want to overthrow the existing establishment. So anything that doesn't. But I don't know, it's a toss-up between, like, quote-unquote democratic socialism that attaches itself to the Democratic Party, which traditionally that wasn't the democratic socialist outlook. Like Salvador Allende in Chile was a democratic socialist. He had his own political party, right? He didn't just join one of the bourgeois, corrupt political parties and try to take it over from the inside. He had his own political party and they won election, right? Only in America is this, like, do we have this thing where it's like we're socialists, but we're going to work through the Democrats. The ruling party in Spain, which people are probably quite fond of right now because Spain has been railing against Israel recently, they had their own party. They used to be a Marxist-Leninist party, and they became like a democratic socialist party and won election after Franco. And they've been in power ever since. The Sandinistas in Nicaragua, after their turn towards democratic socialism, right? Only in America are we like, we're going to work through this party that's committing G-side right now because Republicans bad. We're not going to actually build anything independent. But anyways, that ideology is one of the worst. But even historically, like in Germany, they collaborated, the Dem Socs collaborated with the Yazis to unalive communists and labor leaders and really facilitated their rise to power. But then, left comms, people who are like, I'm a communist, but only the version of communism that I invented in my head. I don't actually support any real working class revolutions that have existed historically or in real life. Thank you, Luca. Thank you for sharing the live, too, Luca. Like and share. You're base, bro. Thank you. Appreciate it. Jesus loves y'all. Thank you, Jeremiah. Jesus loves me, this I know. Eddie, what do you think of Stalin's 5-year plan? Which one? 5-year plans are just something that communist parties issue every 5 years, obviously, to lay out the growth of the economy in the direction they want to see it go. China has 5-year plans, and even some capitalist countries like South Korea have implemented 5-year plans as well. Eddie, the left com said you can't do 67 push-ups in one go. Bro, I would literally rip those out right now if I didn't hit chest yesterday. I hit chest yesterday, or push day, chest and shoulders, and then I did a pull day today. So my chest is sore, and I had wrestling practice. But if I didn't, I would rip out like 100 push-ups right now just because you challenged me. Have you noticed the rise of left comms on TikTok? I have. What is the deal with that? Does anybody know what's going on with that? Like, why are there so many left comms right now? It's strange. Talk fondly about the DPRK. I'm reading a lot about it. Nice, good. Yeah, the DPRK is awesome. I've always said, like, you might be a little bit skeptical at first. Like, wait, North Korea? Because you've just been so... That's how I was at first. I had just been so brainwashed to think they were evil. And then the more I read about them, the more I, like, came to respect them. And their struggle against imperialism. And at first, I was, like, resistant. I'm like, okay, at the very least, they're not as bad as we've been told. But then I just kept reading and learning about them. I'm like, man, these guys are freaking awesome. I can't even deny it anymore. These guys are based. No wonder the U.S. media attacks them so much. They're heroes. Will you move to a kibbutz and learn Krav Maga? Yeah, I'm gonna give up on wrestling and learn to, like, stab someone with my keys or, like, kick them in the groin. Bro, I made a skit about that on my second channel. I thought it was going to go viral. I thought it was hilarious. But it did not. It did okay. My second channel is doing better than my main channel this month, which has never happened. But a lot of stuff happened recently in the world of sports and fitness. At Ed B. Liger is my, like, MMA and fitness channel, by the way. We still talk politics over there, but... it always overlaps with health and fitness. Like, Dr. Mike Israetel posted himself wearing Palantir merch and, like, shilling for Palantir. Me talking about that got, like, 300K views or more. Penn State Wrestling visited the White House and met with Trump. That did really well. Tom Hardy. This wasn't that political, but Tom Hardy gave a talk about why he loves martial arts. And Tom Hardy's also pro-Palestine, so I guess I talked about that too. That one blew up. And then the other one was Krav Maga. That one actually took some effort. I had to search all of these, like, old Disney Channel shows and, like, Malcolm in the Middle and stuff and find them talking about Krav Maga. Thank you, Parviz. Appreciate you, brother. And then I kind of exposed that. Exposed. Let's have a guest up. Let's have ET. Just to mix it up a little bit. What's
Hey,
up,
what's up, Eddie?
ET? How's it going?
How you doing, man?
Good.
I was wondering if you're curious about talking about a kind of post-mortem, for lack of a better term, about MAGA communism.
Sure. It wasn't my thing, obviously. It was Haas, and actually I regret this, but I made a video, like, kind of against it when it started, but I'm down to discuss.
Sure. So essentially, my understanding is basically similar to Haas's, and and when I regard post-mortem, I don't mean that the essence of, like, the meme was incorrect or anything. Similar to, like, logos, Ron Paul Maoism, etc. But
Yeah.
mostly in that, I think this was, at least from my perspective, has been following you guys for a long time and Haas for a long time, is that the left in America, the leftists, the Western Marxists, etc., they seem to have very successfully completely pivoted um, the in the online sphere at least. They seem to have not uh, not understood the content of the meme, but really focused on the form of the meme and did a very successful job in advocating for only the apparent contradiction within it and not the actual point that was being across. And
Mhm.
Haas wrote many polemics. He had a bunch of streams about it, et cetera. This was like articulated in almost in a lot of fairly high profile places, and to me, this signifies not that anything that was wrong about the party. In fact, truth over time seems to be validating this type of meme. But I'm curious to know is in terms of like self criticism or whatever, like what are you going to do? I know there's infra woke or whatever what Haas is doing right now. I'm curious to know what your opinion is on the relationship between strategic alliances with the kind of Western left or even the broader working class as it pertains to like people who've been splintered off from MAGA, taking the lessons learned about maybe necessarily, to quote Haas, being right is the worst thing, or I told you so is the worst thing you can possibly say, and which seems to me that ACP might be in danger of being marginalized because of the holdovers of I told you so, as opposed to understanding these different factions as enemies of soft power.
I think you're right. I mean, first of all, to just comment on what you said with pointing the leftists sort of pointing out the apparent contradictions rather than actually looking at the substance and the substantive contradictions that we were pointing to with that meme or that infrared was. I feel like that's just like the leftist mode of thought at this point. It's not all leftists, but there's so many people who they just look at things on the surface level, which is the opposite of the Marxist method of dialectical materialism and kind of digging under the surface and trying to get through these illusions, and even like the opposite of like Hegelian thought, which is like the deeper you understand something, the better you can understand its contradictions and understand it substantively, versus you can't understand something by just looking at it on its face. So many leftists in America have neglected to learn this, and there's a million examples I can think of, but recently Haas was talking about Enver Hoxha, and he was saying Hoxha, he was like memeing again, but he's like Hoxha was religious because he had like a religious dedication to Marxism Leninism that no other communist leader in history had. And people were like, no, Hoxha said he was an atheist. You're such an idiot. It's like, bro, that's not his point, but they just engage with the sort of provocative surface level statement that he's making in order to avoid actually engaging with the argument, which I don't know what you could do about that. But you're
Well, Eddie, if I
100%.
could interject real quick,
Yeah, go
is
ahead.
that yes, I agree with that. The kind of, this is the status quo amongst not just the left, but the right as well. They only see this is an artifact of liberalism. They
Yeah.
see forms and not content. They are undialectical and one sided in this type of perverse individualism. But being Marxist, right, we have to understand that this is going to be how they come to understand the science of Marxism Leninism. I don't know if you've read the book America Against America,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I've always found it very interesting that what he distills about the American essence, at really what the peak of kind of American unipolarity, the Fukuyama end of history of the late 80s, early 90s, is that he says that America is above all pragmatic. And so this lends me to a type of, I don't know how you would do this. I think FTRC is doing a good job with doing the kind of documentary style stuff.
Yeah.
That has been helpful, and I think that that's part of the solution. But I find it very difficult. I've been doing TikTok lives and debates with a lot of the leftists and the right,
Mhm.
and it is seemingly an impenetrable force. Everything is taken on bad faith, and there is no genuine curiosity to see form for content. Do you
Yeah.
have any strategy and when I say the pragmatic approach, it's like, what are the meat and potatoes? Like China can point to material benefits. The ACP is in its infancy, and I believe it is correct in its positions. But is it simply just a matter of waiting for truth to reveal itself over time? Or is there a different sort of polemic that you guys can engage in? Or is that even necessary, in your opinion, to
No,
appeal to the type of pragmatic nature of Americans?
I think it absolutely is necessary. I don't think sitting and waiting is the right approach. I think you have to be proactive. And I have a couple things to say about that. For one, what you pointed to with the documentaries from RTSG and video essays, that's a huge part of our strategy. I produced one recently, which didn't do as well as I'd like. It, got like 13K views, but I'd like to do better. But there's a YouTube channel you guys should follow if you're watching this stream. It's called Red God, REDGOD. That's an ACP member who's part of this strategy, and he's been killing it. He just started doing video essays, and he's getting like hundreds of thousands of views, talking about communism in a specifically American way, American history, talking about like links between Christianity and communism, things like this. So making things, because America's like a Hollywoodized culture. I was talking to another ACP member, Malumbo, who's big here on TikTok about this. He's like, Americans are like entertainment minded. It's part of like liberal individualism. But if you can like reach them through having a certain aesthetic or through like entertaining documentaries or YouTube video essays or whatever and have it kind of feel like they're watching a movie, or whatever, that's a great way to reach people. And he was also worried that ACP members, not leadership, but members were being too antagonistic and doing exactly what you said, like I told you so, rather than trying to swallow your pride, have the utmost humility, and just continue trying to reach people without having to assert your own superiority or sort of have this "I told you so" attitude. And one of the things I've been pushing it with the party right now is like, obviously we know DSA and working through the Democrats is like a dead end strategy, and some of these DSA people can be annoying. But right now they have a lot of popularity because there are a lot of normies who are discontented with the system, and they just see these socialists who are talking about getting money out of politics and all this stuff, and they're being drawn to DSA. Now, obviously, we know the limitations of that strategy, and we would like to pull them to us. But is the strategy to say DSA is a bunch of tards and like anybody who joins it is an idiot who deserves to be thrown in a gulag and just posit ourselves as like the antithesis of DSA? I don't think so. I think the way to engage with them is to exploit the contradictions of DSA, when those limitations within DSA are shown, like with the Francesca Hong election in Wisconsin,
Right.
point those out and explain our strategy and try to reach people with like, with an understanding of why they would be drawn to something like DSA given their lack of political education and the American liberal environment that they've grown up in. So those are the two things I would say, like having humility and being willing to explain things, or being willing to it's so played out at this point, but reach people where they're at, and then also like tapping into that culture of like Hollywood entertainment that we have in America, through the video essay and because what we want to do is create a whole ecosystem of ACP video essayists who are not just reaching existing leftists, but reaching normies and being their pipeline to communism, so that they don't enter the debate or the conversation with all of these preconceived notions about ACP that they got from other leftists.
Well, I think that you kind of are approaching something that I've thought that was appealing to ACP for me as well. Because you know, many years ago, I was drawn to Marxism-Leninism precisely because of Bernie in 2016, as
Yeah,
is, from my experience, the majority of people who I see as ACP aligned. So it's
same
hard to
here.
deny that reality. It's like the
Yep.
libertarians and the DSA adjacent people, right? The failure of Bernie. On one hand, I do agree with Has in that this is slightly demotivating in that this strategy has already played itself out. Like the Mondani, AOC, Bernie wing, like we have already tried that multiple times. That kind of tailless thing.
Right.
It's like, so how much are the lessons really going to be applied? The Madeline Pendington or whatever debate as well, in which, for the most part, the things that she says are more and less completely in line with ACP. But
Yep.
to them, it is dislodging the primary contradictions of identity based uh, intersectionality, Fabian socialism, that type of stuff, those artifacts that are kind of within Western Marxism, they seem to be very, very hard to dislodge. And there are certain social signals that will immediately get you kind of ostracized from this community and hard to build strategic alliances. What I do think, though, and this is the general point of what I'm trying to say, and I wonder if you agree, is that I think Marxism Leninism, if you look at China, Marxism Leninism, this being the science of humanity it is, and within something like China, which actually is actually existing socialism, those people get to live normal lives. They are
Yeah.
normal. They do not have to care about politics. The freedom from which Marxism Leninism grants you, if you fully understand it, is not to be a weirdo either on the left or the right. It's not to preoccupy yourself with politics in any way, shape, or form. It is simply to exist in a more holistic and organic form of humanity that is, in one small part, helping to revolutionize the forces of production, helping to accentuate the political economy, and yes, helping to like participate in your community. So being a normal one in this sphere of online discourse in which you are bombarded with uh, extremities of violence, corn, you know, frantic reactionaries on Twitter all in the same space, like being normal and presenting yourself as normal through the wisdom of Marxism Leninism seems like, to me at least, a winning strategy. I'm not sure what you think about that.
No, I agree 100%. And everybody has their own eccentricities, and like, um, I'm not saying don't. I guess it's like a liberal term, but like be yourself. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's what we've done with Midwestern Marx from the beginning, is just try to explain. And it was kind of like uncharted territory when we formed the Midwestern Marx Institute, because like we came out of the 2020 Bernie campaign, but at that time, like it was just BreadTube. Like BreadTube dominated the
Right.
online Marxist sphere, and they were like treating Marxism Leninism like this stupid thing for like simpletons who weren't smart enough to understand whatever they were advocating. Thank you very much, Miranda.
It's nuance mongering, it's definition mongering, it's distilling the meaning of things through words, as Haas says in his famous debate with Vosh. Like, it's all that bullshit.
Yes, and that was like what dominated ContraPoints, Vosh, all these people. But now that we're seeing a resurgence of the DSA, I feel like there are more, brilliant and quote unquote normal Marxist Leninist influencers or institutions or whatever you want to call them who can be there to meet this moment. Now, that's not saying, we will or that we're doing enough. We need to step our game up. But I think that's the key, being proactive, meeting this moment right now, and doing video essays or streams or videos or in-person conversations, educational forums, all these sorts of things to sort of meet the moment and reach these people, because it's gonna, similar to the Bernie campaign, a lot of this stuff is gonna fizzle out. The DSA, not fizzle out, but it's going to hit the structural limitations that exist within the Democratic Party. And those people, we want to make sure they don't just become Democratic Party staffers or, go to the right, which is, there are a lot of 2020 Bernie people who are now MLs, but there are also a lot of them who are now like Groypers. So that's where we need to be there to basically just help them level up.
Well, the argument here is that, and the danger, I think, and not necessarily that you guys are doing this, but I think it's been pretty clear, is that there seems to be in the Hunter Biden press tour, in the Groyper stuff post Charlie Kirk, etc., in the broader DSA running the same playbook back and forth, AOC, doing whatever she's doing, capitulating to the status quo. That their logo Daedalus calls it the Millennial Reich. And
Yep.
it is the unity of these two seemingly disparate forces, but they both have the same class sympathies, that there is a unity within the kind of like hecking millennial Reich and the far right as personified by like Nick Fuentes types. And I think that this form of democratic socialism, for lack of a better term, is at the forefront of politics at this point. And I'm wondering if is this reverse MAGA communism of like, all right, well, the Democrats are obviously going to fail again. Maybe the big bourgeoisie represented in the old guard Democrats that still have control over union forces in the rural areas. Will they discipline the entire DSA if they lose this election in Michigan? Are we just going to pick up the pieces, or are we participating in an endless marginal space in which the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth and waiting for kind of the Chinese superproduction to really put a contradiction in the heart of American imperialism? Is, I guess, my question.
I mean, I think it's there is a constant pendulum, and I don't think we should wait on anyone. The more that China grows, the more that the contradiction between American capitalism and Chinese socialism will be shown. But also, you never know what could happen. There could be regime change in China. I doubt it, but Xi Jinping's getting old. You never know who's going to take over after him. Hopefully, it'll be somebody who's an equally strong communist leader. But we can't rely on other countries for anything. But every time that pendulum swings, I do think that there's a shift, maybe a quantitative shift, that will ultimately lead to a qualitative shift. So, first you had like Bernie and people coming from Bernie to Marxism, Leninism. Then you have MAGA, and I know we have a lot of people in the party who are former MAGA people, former libertarians, stuff like that. And then now the pendulum's kind of swinging back, and we have to be there to meet this moment. But I wouldn't say we're just waiting. I would say we're reacting and working within whatever material conditions arise. And every single time there's a change, we should be seeing like a quantitative growth in the party and the number of Americans who consider themselves Marxist Leninists and active organizers. And like eventually, just like using the most basic dialectical analysis, that quantitative growth can turn into qualitative growth, where we're actually able to start challenging political power and we can grow in sort of an exponential way. And then the other thing on top of that is you have the potentiality for a civil war in America, where you have like Newsom and Trump basically fighting each other over control of the National Guard and the armed bodies of the state, which could accelerate things in unforeseen and unpredictable ways, but ultimately ways that will undermine the existing institutions and existing state even more than it already has been. So I think we just have to continue thinking strategically and engaging with the people. Again, not to use this overused term, but engaging with them depending on where they're at.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with it. I don't necessarily mean like in this type of fatalistic or sort of this accelerationist perspective of like, oh, we'll wait it out, but merely saying that like America is in a unique position, even in regards to the Soviet Union, where the Soviet Union had what, a third of the GDP that the United States ever had. They were constantly flanked with uh, it's American soft and hard power in the Cold War, but they never actually exceeded the material conditions of America. And China is in the unique position to actually exceed the quality of life, to further accelerate their productive forces in such a way that America, for the first time, and Americans for the first time, you're starting to see this already compared to what, 10
Yeah.
years ago, what people thought about China, thought about smog cities. Now they think about cyberpunk, etc. And so
Yeah.
for the first time, China has better things than America at a very superficial level. And at the level of political economy, I kind of agree with Michael Hudson here, which is that the industrial capitalism, as he calls it, I would disagree with that phrasing per se. I still think they're Marxist Leninists, but their super production is going to disrupt dollar hegemony. It flies in the face of asset price inflation. And so the convergence of that, I think, will have soft power ramifications. I don't think it's an accident that the highest grossing animated film of last year was a only Chinese animated film that did not exit external markets. As that population develops, look at the even the proliferation of anime. The soft power of the United States is not Eurocentric anymore. It isn't not even necessarily American centric. The Asian century, right, led by China. I feel no reason to believe that this won't take on its own aesthetic that something like ACP can grab onto and say, well, not only is this thing good in the type of Western Marxist moral sense of like that they are actually existing socialism, but most importantly to the left and to the right, they address the material conditions. They have control over the money supply. They actually encourage the rapid development of industry through actual competition, protecting against monopoly formation. They execute billionaires, and they have ran an anti-corruption campaign. These are all things that are very applicable to the American context, and really the advertisement is to tie that as it further develops and further concentrates itself into a multipolar world with the Belt and Road Initiative, etc., into a advertisement of that America should be something that is run more or less the same with specific American characteristics from a purely pragmatic sense. Because something that bothers me, and I'm not sure how you feel about it, but I just view that the vast majority of people that identify as communists do so out of sentimental reasons. And this is not what Marx is talking about in all of his writings, Engels, etc., Lenin. They are mostly concerned with unleashing the creative potential of mankind through principally the root of class itself, production and its relations of production. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah, I get what you're saying. In that sense, I think you're 100% correct. I think Carlos, I mean, I do it too, but Carlos Garrido does a lot of that where he just like highlights stuff that China's doing, even like culturally and in turn, like he had a viral video about China's cars where they're like going back and making muscle cars, but like with modern technology and modern ingenuity. And he basically explains
Dark
that,
factories.
yeah, he's like when you have socialism and control over production, you can sort of like play with the temporal element of production. So you can like bring back these cool retro aesthetics that people like, but with modern engineering and modern engines and modern parts and stuff like this, and kind of explains how it's socialism that allows them to do these things. And that's absolutely going to become even more important as China continues to grow. It's already happening. I see normie accounts all the time talking about how much better China has it and about their high-speed rail system and things like this. And the videos go mega viral, which is a unique thing, you know, to what the Soviet Union was for sure. I mean,
Like I said, America
it's
is
a gift.
coming to terms with, in a post-COVID world, that China has better things. There is nothing in America. I lived in New York City for a long time. Nothing. New York City would be a tier five Chinese city. Like it is. It would.
Oh
It's
yeah,
destitute. But one more
it's
thing
going
before I get, because I
backwards.
know I've been on a long time. I would posit that something very significant that I see happening in the sphere of like the Chinese social relations and the its accelerating productive forces is that, yeah, like you mentioned, electronic cars, dark factories, their entrenched investment on new cities that lay the groundwork for AI and automation. This automation, coupled with a lot of people's criticism of a population decline, it seems to me that the very obvious solution and what China seems to be gearing towards is a reduction of labor hours. They're already
Yes,
trans-
free
transitioning
time.
into they're getting rid of the 996, at least culturally, etc. I don't see that stopping anytime soon, and I'm very curious to see America's in debt slavery, working for the finance sector, being completely unproductive, doing nothing substantial, and living off the back of this kind of techno feudal relationship to production led by asset management companies first and foremost. And then there would be the Chinese who work 4 hour weeks or 4 day weeks. So I think this would be a seismic shift that would fund, like you're talking about civil war or sort of stratifications and divisions within the like actual legal frameworks that might lead to something like this. I think the precursor to this is that fundamentally the quality material life in a developed first world country like China would be something of a precursor to this ultimate catalyst.
I agree, and I've given talks on that too. I can let you go after this. This has been a really good
Yeah, sorry,
conversation.
I didn't mean to take too long.
No, it's all good. I appreciate you coming up and having thoughtful stuff to talk about. But I've talked about this too, where like, well, for one, you're 100% right, where people have like a moralistic view of Marxism, which is an okay way to start. Like you're pissed off at the Epstein class and about being in debt, but then you have to take the next step to get a deeper understanding and understand that the goal is to unleash the forces of production in the way that China's done. And I actually think, as much respect as I have for like what Russia's doing in Africa and like arming and helping the Sahel revolutionary governments, and I think somebody needs to do that, right? And Russia and China are working basically in tandem at this point to undermine the U.S. empire. I do also think China's like foreign policy strategy of just mutual cooperation and complete non-interventionism might in the long run be doing even more to undermine the U.S. empire. They have a different strategy than
Absolutely,
the Soviet,
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
just taking over production and doing more and more trade in their own currency, undermining dollar hegemony, building up these
All,
countries that the IMF and the World Bank rely on keeping as debt colonies. Like
well,
this is going to
also,
undermine the empire.
Also, like, as you guys have said before, it's not imperialism isn't about extracting resources, it's about keeping them in the ground so they can't develop.
Yes.
China is not only uh, furthering their development, they're lending their export economy to develop, but they are also lending their expertise. They are training whole
Yeah.
generations of people to to maintain self-sufficiency with these massive infrastructure projects. That yeah, I completely agree with you. I think this is the way to multipolar world order. But yeah, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for letting me on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming up. Everybody follow ET. That was a great conversation. Son, what are you doing? Go lead the APLA, huh? What do you think about the PKK? Some kind of like CIA infiltrated group, to be honest with you. The poor Kurds. Some people are just like, F the Kurds, And I don't take that position because there's been like real Kurd oppression. But they just get used as pawns by the U.S. government. And, there's some blame on them for allowing that to happen, but it's over and over again in every country the Kurds get used as pawns. Am Yisrael try? No. PKK is good? I disagree. America can still go socialist, although China is leading the way. Well, the only way that we can actually compete with China is by becoming socialist. Which is why it's funny when Donald Trump is like, I have much respect. Xi Jinping, he's a great leader. He's built up his people. He's a great, strong, wise leader. China's economy is doing very well. Not as good as ours, but very well. Joe Biden could learn a thing or two from Xi Jinping, It's like, well, why do you think he's doing so well, bro? They don't have a two-party system. They have a one-party state governed by the Marxist-Leninists, and there are political divisions and debates within that party. But it's like the best thing I've ever heard to describe that is like in the U.S. you have the ability to pick your party, but in China you actually have the ability to pick policy. You actually have the ability to determine what the government does, whether it's nationally or in your own locality. It's like if you have one party that actually serves the people, you can have debates about policy or whatever else within that party. But if you have two parties who are just like fighting back and forth for power, nothing actually ever gets changed. It's just stupid. Only National Socialism based on the F word can beat China. Bro, they already tried that. What do you think World War II was? You know who got their asses handed to them by the Soviet Union and China? The Japanese and the Germans and the Italians. The Japanese lost, like, in their last battle with the Soviet Union, it was like 20 casualties to 1, where the Soviet Union would take like 1 casualty for every 20 casualties that they dealt the Japanese. Your ideology already tried to beat communism, and it ended up blowing its brains out in a bunker. So, what does that tell you? What do you think of people who use Kalshi? Well, if you're making money off of it, you better be giving it to the Communist Party. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to make a moral judgment of you as an individual. Sorry, I'm going to eat some food right now. But, like, Kalshi itself, I'm tired of seeing those damn ads, bro. It's like, do you want to bet on whether or not friggin' Donald Trump will take a shit and praise Pol Pot this weekend? Visit Kalshi now. It's like they're literally like stock marketifying everything. They're turning everything, every aspect of human life into gambling. It's not even just like the commodification of everything anymore and the selling of everything. It's like you literally got to be able to gamble on everything. So I'm going to eat some Swedish meatballs. Hopefully that doesn't bother you. It's an ASMR video. It's a mukbang. Profiting on speculation, right. That's the word I was thinking of. It's like turning every aspect of human life into like speculation. Would the cartel take advantage of a revolution since it would hurt their profits? Yeah, that's what Marx talked about with like the lumpen proletariat. Where it's like criminals are their own economic class. And they tend to be the most counter-revolutionary class. Because, for one, they can be bribed, right? They're not people who are, like, upstanding members of society, so they're willing to take bribes in order to be counter-revolutionary. And then you have, like, cartels who don't want to get cracked down on by a revolutionary government. So their sort of class interest is to fight against it. I hear some people being like, the term lumpen proletariat is outdated and racist because you're just talking about black people. It's like, bro, you're racist. You're the one saying that a term that means criminals just means black people, which it doesn't. You know, and a lot of these cartel members could be of any race, and a lot of them aren't black. But it's just an economic class. Yeah, but Stalin was a serial robber, though. That's different. He was robbing banks to fund the Bolsheviks. He wasn't just doing it to enrich himself and his cartel. I just heard Trump say he'll declare the Strait of Hormuz as United States territory. Bro, they were even making fun of him on the Joe Rogan Experience. Him and Shane Gillis were like, every freaking week, Trump is like, Strait of Hormuz is ours. We've got it under control. It's now the Strait of America. And then you go to pump your car with gas, and you're like, oh, okay, buddy. That's why I'm paying $6 a gallon. Because you own the Strait of Hormuz? Get the fuck out of here, you dumbass. Is the ACP misogynistic? Because I want to join, I'm scared if they're misogynist. No, absolutely not. In fact, if you are, like, targeting women in any way, insta-ban. You get instantly kicked out of the party. If there's evidence, of course, which... Or, like, we basically do, like, a trial. But any time you have a large group of people, you're going to have some, like, bad actors. But we've had a few cases of men, like, just showing, like, there was one guy who was just, like, hitting on women, and it seemed like that was the whole reason he was in the party and was making advances on women. Just gone, purged, automatically purged. One guy was actually, like, doing a good job as a member, but we found out that he had abused women in the past. Like, we had to kick him out. Not that people can't change, but, like, we don't want to take any risks or put our female members at risk, so... No, absolutely not. Join acp.us. I also follow some female comrades. They have my respect, the same respect as men. Yeah. We did an event. You can find it on the ACP YouTube channel on women and socialism. That was led by some of the awesome female comrades in our party. So we have a lot of awesome women in the party. I will go see you in Chicago in September. Hell yeah, let's go, Zara. You can either join the party then or join the party before then, and then you can tell me about it, and I'll introduce you to all the Illinois members or wherever you're from. By the way, if you want to meet me and come to our Marxism conference, which your favorite Guy Christensen, is now confirmed, he's going to be there as well, as is Butch Ware of the Green Party, and a handful of others. Mocha Yappuccino will be there. Buy tickets in my bio. Just $20 for a Marxism conference where you get to meet all those people. Carlos is promoting it right now on the ground. How many HDP members? Like 1,000. We started with 300. Now we have like 1,000. And growing quickly. We get new members almost every day. Your favorite guy is a Marxist? I think so. He has all the same positions as a Marxist. Marxist conference is my Coachella based. ACP was created almost exactly 2 years ago. And the other thing is, like, you know, other parties may have more numbers on paper, but in terms of like active members, we're right up there with any left-wing organization in the U.S. other than DSA at the current moment. We will catch them. But, you know, in comparison with CPUSA, I would argue we have way more active members. PSL, it's probably pretty close. So the members we do have are very active. But, yeah, in 2 years, we've tripled in size. And hopefully that'll grow exponentially. Thoughts on Juan Velasco Alvarado? I'm drawing a blank. I know who that was. Wasn't he the guy in Peru? One sec, I gotta look it up. Right. He led like the anti-imperialist, like socialist adjacent coup in Peru that nobody really knows about. But it was like a good example of like a revolution from the top down. It would be like if, I don't know, we don't really have an equivalent in the U.S. Maybe like Colonel Douglas MacGregor or something. Although I don't know about that guy. It would be like if John Kiriakou was like a military general, and him and other like sections of the military and the CIA like took over the U.S. government and started like implementing all of these anti-imperialist pro-worker policies. That's basically what Velasco was. Very interesting, but you have to consolidate support of the people if you're going to stay in power. He was based, I agree. On a scale of 1 to 10 on the evil scale, where do you rank libertarians? Well, what kind of libertarians are we talking about? Are we talking about, like, my dad owns a business, so I'm basically like a white nationalist right-winger, like Prax Ben? Because then I would say like a 10. But are we talking about like a Ron Paul supporter? Someone who's just like the U.S. government sucks, so I support taking away all their power? Because in that case, I would say they're not evil at all. But there's a large spectrum of libertarians. You should make a video on how to discover capitalist propaganda. You mean like uncover it? Or how to like debunk it? I can do that. Hey bro, completely random, but who you got winning? Islam or Ian Gary? Islam all day. Islam, who talks about freeing Palestine and has sacrificed sponsorship deals to speak out for Palestine. Of course him. Have you ever had any close connections with CPUSA members that weren't so fond? I mean, I was technically in their party. And they were just talking about Democrats all the time. They're indistinguishable from libs. But they weren't like bad people. It was just like old boomers. I'm friends on Facebook with Sam Webb, the former leader of the party, who like now renounced communism and just became a Democrat, which goes to show how liberal CPUSA has become. And reading his posts on social media is just sad, bro. It's just straight up sad. There's a couple in Madison. Yeah, I'm not surprised. They don't do much, though. Genuine question, was Prax Ben talking to a minor? I see MLs bring it up a lot. Yeah, bro. She sent me the images, the screenshots of him doing it, and asked me to make a video exposing him. And she was a minor, so I was like, just so you know, like, this is a big decision. I'm like, and we should probably, like, go to the police or something. And I'm like, I just don't want to make this big exposed video and, like, accidentally lead to a bunch of backlash against you. Like, I was trying to protect her. And she was like, okay, maybe not. Let's just forget about it. So I've never released her name or anything, but I have screenshots of him hitting on a minor and, like, being, like, a sad boy because someone, like, cock-blocked him or whatever. And he was like, you just ruined my relationship. I just wanted to have a good time with her. But yeah, that's true. That's not only is that true, but I was right in the middle of it. Because they knew I hated Ben, and I had, like, the largest socialist account at the time, or one of them. So that girl came to me and was like, can you expose Ben? Is the government monitoring ACP? I bet they do. Oh, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. They're trying to shut down Telegram now, so we are actually having to build our own communication platform. W for protecting the girl. A lot of libertarians mostly blame the girls. Exactly. And she was so young still. Like, now she's an adult. But back then, you know, it seemed like she was, like, wrapped up in the drama and somebody was maybe convincing her to expose Ben. And I was like, oh, let's pump the brakes here. I'm trying to be the adult in the room. Like, let's think about this a little bit. You train MMA, homie? I wrestle, yeah. Shut down TG? Seriously? Yeah, they're trying to take it off the App Store and Google Play Store. Do you know or speak with any PSL members personally? Yeah, I've spoken with a lot of them, especially at, like, Palestine events. I have a lot of PSL members who like my content. Hi, Midwestern Marks. Hello. Fave takedown, fireman's carry. Thoughts on Cale Sanderson? He looks like John Fetterman. I was Division 3, and then I wrestled Greco-Roman at the senior level and U23 level. A couple-time All-American. 6-time All-American in Greco, actually. Which leftist party do you prefer? The American Communist Party, brother. ACP.US. Big ups, man. Thank you. Thank you. American Communist Party is the only Marxist-Leninist party in America. Have you seen infiltration in the ACP? Like, any sus people or events? Yeah. There was a group of wreckers who we kicked out, like, right when the party started. There were, like, 11 of them who were, like, plotting to overthrow the party from the inside. Haven't seen anything like that in a while, but we're always on the lookout. Eddie has maxed out this chest press machine. 20 reps for 150. Let's go. Good job, bro. Why doesn't it go any higher than 150? You need to find a better chest press machine. 20 reps is a shit ton, but good job anyway. Jackson Hinkle is outside the U.S. now. Is he still active in ACP? Yes, he's our international secretary. So he does all of our, like, international relations and stuff like that. Which is the best job for him since he's outside the U.S. and he travels all the time. But yeah, He's not able to come back to the States. I had a meeting with Jackson last week. I mean, I talk to him every week, but he met with like the whole party or the chapter leadership last week. That explains why he's all over the place. LOL. Yeah, that and just like his journalistic work. You know, that's how he makes his money, is his show. So he just travels around the world, but he's also like building relations with foreign parties, and spreading the word about the ACP around the globe. That's why I got to go to Russia, and I got to hang out with Jackson in Russia, which was awesome. I wish I could hang out with him more. I was sad to have to leave. And you could tell, like, you know, he loves Russia, but he's, like, still an American, and he's, like, forced to leave his community and family behind because he won't cave and stands on business when it comes to his political beliefs. So, like, you could tell he enjoyed hanging out with Americans again. Supporting the ACP is literal treason. I would say supporting the current government is really treason. Supporting these Epstein criminals who want to send your kids to die in Iran is treason for me. ACP started 2 years ago. Join, acp.us. When was I in Russia? Like 3 months ago. It was so awesome, bro. Our country is such a shithole. Like, Russia is under all these sanctions, and, like, you can tell because there's no, like, Western products and Western advertising there, unlike, you know, a country like Turkey or a country that's been more westernized, that's, like, a NATO member. But, it's so awesome. Everything's clean. There's high-speed rail going everywhere. It's all up-to-date and fast and orderly. There's, like, beautiful proletarian artwork from the Soviet era everywhere. The city's all walkable because it was created by a centrally planned economy under the Soviet Union. There are Chinese, like, every time you get an Uber, it's a freaking, or it's not Uber there, I can't remember the app. What's the app? It's like Yellow something. I don't know. If somebody knows from Yandex, not Yellow, Yandex is the app. But every time you use Yandex to order an Uber, it's like a Chinese EV with like the most high-tech shit you've ever seen in your life. And it's like, man, it really, and this is Russia, right? This isn't even China. And a lot of people in Russia are now saying we need to bring back socialism because things aren't as good as they used to be. But, like, you really realize how much the U.S. has gone to shit. Like, it's actually really bad. The American people are no longer benefiting from imperialism unless they're, like, financial managers or, like, executives for weapons manufacturers. The average American person is no longer benefiting from imperialism. We're just having opioids shoved down our throats and watching our city decay. Every time I, like, came back from Russia and, like, immediately in Chicago, there are, like, homeless people wandering into the street and asking for money. And it's like, man, this is tragic. This is our century of humiliation. Like, you just don't see that in Russia. I think I saw one homeless person or, like, one beggar, and it was a lady who, like, had no legs, who probably just couldn't work. And I don't even know that she was homeless. That's probably just how she makes money because housing's more affordable there. It's like America really is in, like, a century of humiliation where everything's decaying. We have no public infrastructure, no public transportation. Our politicians are freaking going to Epstein's Island, and they're just like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? We're the ones who are in charge. There's homeless people everywhere. Meanwhile, these big real estate developers are building new houses all the time. Luxury houses for the elites. So they can have, like, 3 freaking summer homes. It's embarrassing, bro. I'm ashamed of where our country is at. And you really see it when you go to a country like Vietnam or China or Russia. What do you think about non-Marxist socialism? I think it's just impotent, toothless socialism. Marxism gives us a way to understand the system and explain it and analyze it, and a way to struggle against it. Non-Marxist socialism is not anti-materialist, anti-scientific socialism. It's just like moralistic socialism. Like, yeah, socialism would be better. Like the DSA. It's like, yeah, but how do we get there? How do we build socialism concretely out of the existing system? That's what Marxism gives us. Marxism is the greatest tool that the proletariat has ever been given. Have you worked with your favorite guy? Yeah, and I'm doing a conference with him next month. Buy tickets in my bio. Do you block people easily? I hardly ever block people. The only time I block people is if they hop in here and start like saying slurs or like posting the Yahtzee symbol to like try and get me banned. But I like debates, and I like listening to people who I disagree with, so I can think about my own perspective compared to theirs. Yeah, someone was saying that the other day. I wanted to make a reply video, but they had a private account, so I couldn't. But they commented, like, bro, I love you, but why do you follow Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson? Like, they were mad that I followed Candace and Tucker. I'm like, bro, for one, those two are, like, railing against the establishment right now. They're very interesting figures. But two, I want to be able to respond when they say bullshit about communism or when they say things I disagree with. And those two have hundreds of thousands of viewers who hate the U.S. government, hate Israel, hate the wars, want to have like a government and an economy that actually functions on behalf of the people. They're just like a little bit misguided in how they want to achieve that. Why would I not want to see what people like that are listening to or what people like that are saying? You have to engage with people who, not just the enemy, right? You should know what the enemy is saying too, but also people who are like anti-establishment but aren't exactly with your same ideology or in your same organization. Like, you should engage with what those people are saying. Otherwise, you're just shouting into an echo chamber, and like, what does that accomplish? So I wanted to make a video saying that, but that person had their account on private, so maybe I'll make the video anyways. Do you follow any prominent liberals? Yeah, a bunch of them. Me and Parker are mutuals. Parker, get a job. Thank you, Grizz. I follow Dean Withers and engage with him quite a bit. He doesn't engage back because he's like huge now. But I've had viral videos responding to Dean Withers. Thank you for the gifts, y'all. I'm going to wrap up soon unless we get like 1 million stickers. Unless we get 1 million galaxies. But there are others too. I can't think of any right now, but those are the main ones on TikTok. Chris Mowry is another one. I follow Chris. I've been on his live stream before, which I was able to get on because he's not as big as Parker. I mean, not as big as Dean Withers. I listen to Dean Withers when I'm in the bathtub. You know how it is. I follow MAGA people. I even will follow... I won't follow Zionists, but like, I'll get them on my timeline and I'll engage with them. I'm not going to follow them because fuck them. But like, I'll see them on my timeline and engage because a lot of that stuff can go viral. Like Jackson Hinkle and I have seen a lot of growth on social media just by telling Zionists that they suck. I can just tell Randy Fine that he's like a fat Zionist pig and I'll get like 100 likes. You got to exploit these contradictions. Thank you, Parviz. That opinionated poodle, yeah, her. No, I do not follow her. But her content popped up on my page, and I made a viral video about it. So, what's your take on left comms? They're idealist. They just want to enact a version of socialism that only exists in their heads. When the working class actually seizes political power in a revolution, they condemn it for not being perfect and pure enough. It's the completely wrong approach. It's actually idiotic. Never thought I'd see Sneeko opening up to communism. Another reason Is this a DSA guy inviting me to co-host? I'm not going to go that much longer. I don't want to accept and then leave right away. That would be interesting, though, to talk to a DSA guy. Sneako's another person, like, who we engaged with in good faith, and now he's split from Andrew Tate and Fuentes, and he's railing against these right-wing grifters. You know, he's more of a Muslim perspective than a socialist one, but there can be overlap there, right? And I would consider him an ally at this point. He made his profile picture Malcolm X, which all the white nationalists, like, jumped on him for. But, yeah, another reason to engage with everybody. What's the odds that one guy has all the answers for socialism? Impossible. Socialism is a collective struggle. Even Karl Marx could be criticized at points. Even Lenin had to build on the work of Marx. And we have to build on the work of Lenin. Imperialism today, and I've made plenty of videos about this, it functions differently than it did in Lenin's day. And if we're just like religious, which is how a lot of left comms or orthodox Marxists are, they treat it like a religion, we're not going to be able to analyze the changes in the capitalist mode of production. You are a smart man. You're doing a good job. I'm always watching you, and I like you. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you, brother. What do you think of Egypt now? By the way, I am Egyptian. What do you think of Egypt now? Seems pretty corrupt to me. Egypt under Nasser was awesome. My reason why I'm not fixated on Marxism precisely can't rely on one guy. Well, it's not one guy, it's a collective. Marxism is all about the collective and debate within the collective. Even the party strategy is called democratic centralism. So basically you have freedom of debate within the party, and we can debate on strategy and what strategy is best and what tactics are best. But then once the collective has decided on it democratically, we have unity of action. So even if your opinion is different than that of the collective, right? If the collective decided that this is the best strategy, that's what we go with. And that's why I say, like, Marxism isn't just about Karl Marx. You know, there's a lot on top of Karl Marx. Hundreds of Marxist theorists and even non-Marxist theorists who we can learn from, who help us to build upon the work of Karl Marx. Real awareness is class consciousness, yes. I've heard that only cadre can vote, though, so not real Dems sent. That's not true. Anybody can come to the National Congress where decisions are made. But even within true, like, Athenian democracy, thank you for the roses, Sidhu. True, like, Greek Athenian democracy is just impossible, you know. Thank you. You can't just vote on every single issue. It would be inefficient. You need, like, some leadership. So, like, urgent decisions within the Bolsheviks were made by the Politburo and the leadership. But then most decisions were made within the Central Committee, which were people who were elected by the rank and file of the party at the National Congress. And then as many decisions as possible were made at the National Congress, which we have our National Congress for ACP coming up. But those were just meetings of everybody in the party where they could discuss and debate and pick new Central Committee members or criticize the Central Committee or the leadership. So as democratic as is realistically possible. But especially, like, if you're at war, like during the Russian Civil War, you know, you can't be like, let's have a vote on every single, like, military operation. Like, you need some level of leadership. But that's just the reality of life. If you're ever in Ireland or Argentina, it'd be an honor to have a chat. I'll let you know, brother. That'd be fun. Does having expensive materials go against the values of the ACP? No. We want everybody to be rich. We want everyone to have a nice car and a nice house. And if you have those things under capitalism, that's fine. It's not about morals. It's about class struggle, which is something very material. Right. This is what a lot of people get wrong. They think it's like a morality thing. You know. And morals can like motivate behavior, motivate you to become a Marxist. Like being disgusted by Elon Musk and the Epstein class can help you push you towards Marxism. But it's really understanding that class struggle is what drives history. But you can be rich, like Ingalls. His dad owned a freaking factory. And he was still one of the greatest socialist theorists and leaders of all time. Student loans is ruining my life. I wish education was free. You're telling me, brother. Join the ACP. Come to Kansas. Let's wrestle my friends who think I'm gay for advocating for socialism. Well, when you say wrestle and gay in the same sentence, that might give people the wrong idea. But I feel you. I will come to Kansas and beat your friend's ass. And then I will bench 315 pounds in front of them. And I'll say that's the power of communism, bitch. Thank you, Aura. But yeah, saying like, let's wrestle them. They think I'm gay. I'm just saying that gives people the wrong impression. I don't think wrestling is gay, but like, they might think you mean a different kind of wrestle. I'm just messing with you. I'll come to Kansas and whoop your friend's ass. That one South Park episode, the one about the wrestling, bro, that episode's hilarious. In like the world of wrestling memes, that episode is a classic. Before you leave, can you let me up? Yeah, we'll do one more. Do you agree with tankies? I am a tanky. Thoughts on Che? Che's my personal hero. What's up, bro?
Yo, what's up? How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm a little sick, but mostly good. I just got like maybe like two questions. My first one is, have you seen? I know you and Madeline Pendleton are kind of like not the greatest of friends. Let's just say that. But I seen Prax Ben made like a video against them, like debunking their arguments for the DPRK and the USSR. And a bunch of left comms are like agreeing and reposting it. Like,
Oh
what
my
do you think
God.
about that?
Isn't that classic?
I know.
The right-wing scumbag Prax Ben has the left comms agreeing with him. I mean, we had a guy on the live last time. You might have saw it. My friend Johnny, who was like saying we need to go softer on the left comms. I'm like, bro, they're like hardcore anti-communists. They're like imperialists. They like condemn any socialist experiment and are like, yeah, let's do regime change against Cuba and China because they're not, socialist enough. It's so freaking absurd. And I would get it. Like, I have criticisms of every existing socialist country, but it's like those criticisms are couched within support for the fact that they had working class revolutions in the first place. But left comms aren't like that. It's just like, and it's like a superiority thing too. Like, these Marxist-Leninists are just simpletons. I'm the real communist, the real big brain communist, who really understands communism and that communism isn't actually achievable, which is, completely antithetical to everything Marx believed. He was very pragmatic. Yeah, that's interesting. I need to go on one of Madelton's lives. I saw she was streaming today and I didn't get a chance to hop on. But I would like to have a conversation with her, about uniting against these scumbags. Because we agree on almost everything politically.
Yeah, because I'm not the biggest Madeline Pendleton D-Rider. I'll have disagreements, and I think they can be quite petty at sometimes, but I think that, like, especially like the left comms, especially going after Mocha, like calling him the N-word, like, what the hell? I
Yeah,
see like
that
a
too.
left com live every time like I scroll on TikTok live. I don't know how they haven't went to sleep yet. Every time I open TikTok, it's the first one, and they're like, Marxist Leninists should be abolished, and they're liberals. But I have seen a lot less left com since school break has ended in Tel Aviv, so I don't know.
It's just the Israeli Communist Party.
The Israeli proletariat.
It does almost feel like some kind of psyop or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm being conspiratorial, but
No, I think it probably is. Like, I think the people engaging aren't like willingly like partaking in the psyop, but it's is it COINTEL? It was something like COINTELPRO, like the FBI,
yeah.
and yeah, it's sort of like they're pushing out these left comms who are probably trained by the FBI to like spew left com nonsense, which will never work. Like, there is no communism now, button. I'm sorry, but it's a lot easier to, you know, just lost my train of thought. It's a lot easier to have communists saying that communist projects have never worked, because then it just fuels people being like, well, why would we even try communism in the first place when it doesn't work?
Right. And it's easier for them because they don't have to actually debunk U.S. mainstream media propaganda. They can just go right along with it. It's so stupid though. Why would you be a communist? If it had actually failed every time it's tried, why would you still believe in it? Like, if that was true, then you actually shouldn't be a communist. But it's just not.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people I used to follow. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she was also Scottish, and she was like, "Why am I abandoning Marxism, Leninism, and I'm becoming a left com?" And I used to see her repost you all the time, and it's like, "Oh my God, we can't be serious." But my other question is, do you know, like on YouTube, how there's these channels just dedicated to catching like people like Prax Ben talking to minors?
Wait, what?
Like there's like a big influx on YouTube recently. It's been around for a while, but it's people like posing as like people like underage girls and stuff, and
Oh yeah, like Gideon and Alex Rosen.
like oh, don't talk to me about Alex Rosen.
That fucking guy.
But in general, do you think it's like good? Because I've seen like a lot of debate on, it's kind of vigilantism, which can like sometimes be good, but a lot of these cases are like jeopardized by the fact that these people don't know what they're doing. And so Vitali, one of his decoys actually said they were 18, and they went and like got this guy fired from his job, and it came out that they never actually said they were underage. So I think it's like a lot of like, it's gonna get like, even if the people are guilty, there's gonna be a lot of times where it's not taken seriously because of how mishandled the creators do it. Because I mean, I've seen a lot of them go like do like kind of like stunts where it's like, you know what, it's Halloween, I'm gonna go dress up as Paw Patrol and go to the store, or you know what, we're gonna go to this guy's house and pretend he won a Lamborghini and take him to the police station, and he never got arrested because it was counted as kidnapping.
Right. Yeah, my friend Ruslan, whose name is Brutal Truth Bombs on Twitter, he just did a post about this that I agree with. Like, if you have a real professional operation, like, honestly, like Chris Hansen and To Catch a Predator, like, most of the people they caught actually ended up going to jail because they were, like, really professional about it. But, like, Vitali, although I will give Vitali credit for making that one video where Akon is singing to the Predator, "You're about to get locked up." It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. But, like, if you have a real professional operation, like, honestly, like Chris Hansen and To Catch a Predator, like, most of the people they caught actually ended up going to jail because they were, like, really professional about it. But, like, Vitali, although I will give Vitali credit for making that one video where Akon is singing to the Predator, "You're about to get locked up." It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. But I think he even got caught like faking some of those videos, like just hiring actors. And it's like
Yeah.
very clear that a lot of these people are just after clout. They don't actually care. And it's like such a disgusting crime that they're able to get people on their side, even if they're like pretty disgusting people like Alex Rosen. So I think a lot of them are after clout. I think it could be good if you do it professionally, but it seems to be drawing in a lot of just like content vultures who want to be influencers.
Yeah, like not to like glaze the police or anything, but like to be fair to them, if you like what I've seen, they'll often reach out to these people who have like very big channels and be like, listen, if you want to do it, give us a phone ahead of time, or you can just work with us on the case and we can just be on standby. So there's no like mishandling. Like with Chris Hansen, like I think he's done like a pretty good job. I mean, he caught, I don't know if you've seen this, but he caught Benjamin Netanyahu's like former like bodyguard, like head of security, and never. I don't think he does it with the police anymore. I think he's just like himself, and I think it's in Vegas. I could be wrong because I know it used to be around the country, then it used to be Connecticut and New England, but I know he got arrested in 2019, kind of disappeared for a bit, and now he's had this comment. Even he's like hating on these people on YouTube who are doing it.
Is he? That's
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not surprised. He's probably like feels like these people are ripping him off and then just doing it in an unprofessional way. I'm sure he would support it if they were doing it right, but yeah, it's just clout vulturing. It's like capitalism commodifies everything, even catching PDF files, and just makes it like the worst version that it possibly could be. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that like EDP guy, like that guy who was the big Eagles football fan who got caught with minors, he was like, I'm pretty sure he's still free. Like he's not in jail because they fucked up their
yeah. He's got a
process.
documentary.
Yeah. There's some documentary, but I haven't watched it yet. But
I've not. I don't plan on watching it. I think they've got like the worst people on the planet. Are you familiar? You might not be familiar, but are you familiar with Chris Chan?
yes, unfortunately, I am.
They've made an appearance for some reason.
In the documentary?
Yeah, they're asking Chris Chan about EDP.
Why?
I don't know.
Bro. Maybe I will watch it. Who knows?
I might have to.
More
I've got like
curiosity.
I've got like one more shorter question. I
Yeah,
know
go for it.
you're a lot like you're definitely a lot. Sorry, it's 2 o'clock. I was at the club last night. I'm still
All good.
not recovering, but
Be there
you're a lot. You're very politically active, especially on the ground. And I don't know if you've heard about this. It's more like a UK-based story, but even I have to watch what I'm saying. I'm at my girlfriend's house, and there's like a police camera because someone tried to break in. I don't know if it has a microphone, but there's this group called Palestine Action that have been prescribed as a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
And it's, it's like I would love to like get in. Okay, I have to phrase it carefully. In a world where it wasn't prescribed as a terrorist organization, I would love to get involved in action like that. But it's also like I don't want to have stuff on my record because still I still want to maintain a job. I still want to live a relatively good life. I want to provide for the people around me, and I don't know, eventually start a family and stuff like that. And I don't want to jeopardize like my life with a conviction of terrorism and having to spend 14 years in jail for holding up a placard.
Yeah, you got to be careful right now in Europe and the UK in specific. It's like some of the guys from the Workers' Party were in Russia with me, and they got detained when they got back just for being in Russia. And like George Galloway is not even able to be in the UK anymore. So you always got to be careful, but I mean also that's just part of the risk that you run in any country for being politically active. Like Marx had to flee and live in exile. Lenin had to live in exile. I'm not saying you have to live in exile, But yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of part of the risk that you run. So you just got to assess the risks. If an organization like that's already been labeled, thank you, Comrade, for the donut. If it's already been labeled as a terror organization, it's just like a Palestine org. I mean, if it's something you really believe in, you could run the risk and get involved. But it is just like an organization that organizes protests and on the ground stuff, which is good. But I would actually look for like a political party to join. I know we have good relations with the Workers' Party. We do stuff with them and help them with their media. And their leader is banned from the country, George Galloway, but I don't think they are listed as a terror group or anything yet. But yeah, I feel bad for you guys, man. It's freaking crazy. And like one of the good things about America is like we do have mass surveillance, and Julian Assange was like basically tortured for doing journalism with WikiLeaks. So like the First Amendment has been trampled over. But the First Amendment does still provide us in America some legal protection, the Free Speech Amendment, when it comes to protecting ourselves from state crackdowns on like revolutionary organizing. And stuff like that doesn't exist in a lot of European countries, so it's sad. Your police are also less likely to just gun you down, but that is one advantage we have as Americans. But yeah, I don't know what to say other than just get involved as safely as possible.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, I would, if Workers' Party were more active in Scotland, I'd probably look to join them. Right now, I'm looking to join the Communist Party of Britain. They're Marxist-Leninists. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
They seem quite chill. I've had a talk with like a couple, because in my like area, the town I live in used to be known as Little Moscow, because it was such like a socialist place, and we even still have a communist member of council. And there's like a big group of Communist Party of Britain, specifically in like my constituency, and I'd love to get involved in that. And yeah, with Palestine Action, I mean, the ruling got overturned in February, and it's been
Okay.
overturned again in support of the government. But when it got overturned the first time, I mean, you had police officers coming out, like not to support the police, but they were like, I've never felt so disgusted with myself. Why am I locking up? Because the average like age, gender, and race for the people arrested were 50-year-old white women, and you'd see videos of people like 80-year-olds in wheelchairs get like, I won't say beaten, but they'd get pretty badly treated by the police for holding a placard. But yeah.
It's nuts, bro. I see new videos out of the UK every day of like police knocking on people's doors and being like, you tweeted this about Israel. And I mean, as bad as the US is, like that kind of stuff just doesn't happen as often. You could have like the FBI show up at your door, but, like you got to do some really crazy shit to actually get like penalties enforced against you. Like on some level, we do still have freedom of speech in this country, and the UK is crazy. So yeah, you just got to be careful. Like I'm always careful. Like you can pretty much say what you believe without saying I support X organization. Like that's how I've avoided getting banned on TikTok.
Yeah.
Everybody knows how I feel about the resistance, but I just like don't say it explicitly.
Yeah. Like it's illegal to say I support Palestine Action. I can say that legally.
Yeah. So yeah, just be as careful as you possibly can. I guess that would be my advice, but definitely get involved. Like, life is risk, and you're only gonna live once, as Drake taught us, the great comrade Drake.
Yeah, W. Drake.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's all the. Actually, my profile picture. Should I eat him?
Is that Bulbasaur?
That's Bulbasaur.
Don't eat him.
Damn. Oh yeah, before I go, if you like Blink-182, because I remember you said that before, you should check out The Paradox. I've been listening to them a lot lately. They're really good.
The Paradox. Okay, if they're like
Yeah.
Blink-182, I'm interested.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you have a I think it's nighttime where you are. I'd assume so.
Yes, it is.
Oh, thank you for the gift, the corn.
Thank you,
I've never been
Helfrey.
gifted. All right, well, you have a good you have a
You're
good
rich.
night.
Yes, you too, brother.
All
Thanks
right,
for coming up.
see you later. Bye bye.
Yeah. It's corn. It's corn. L. Drake, actually. Can you really bench 315? Yeah, I hit 315 for the first time. Like a month ago now. We are Charlie Kirk. Thank you, Victor. Wow, all the gifts. Thank you, Andrew. I was going to end the stream, but if you guys are just going to send me gifts, we can keep it rolling for a little bit. Do you F with Rev Left Radio? Yeah, they have some good episodes. We carry the flame. Thank you, Andrew and Victor. Whoa. We're raking it in. Drake. I've changed my mind on the Kendrick Drake beef, bro. Someone asked, who do you think won the debate between Candace and Andrew Wilson? I assume you're talking about. I think Candace won. I just made a video about it. Drake actually signed a petition for a ceasefire in Gaza. And, like, this is what I don't like about Kendrick, bro. He's always pitching himself as being the socially conscious activist rapper. You know, I'm the rapper who's, like, against systemic racism, and I'm the thoughtful rapper who actually raps about serious topics, not just partying. And it's like, he hasn't said shit. He hasn't said a damn thing about Palestine. And it's like, if you're so thoughtful and socially conscious, why have you not said anything about the G-side that our government's committing against a bunch of Arab people? Huh, Kendrick? Because if you did, they wouldn't let you perform at the Super Bowl and have your position of immense wealth and your position in liberal American culture. And Drake actually signed a ceasefire a petition for a ceasefire. And then out of nowhere, he gets attacked by Kendrick and attacked by the entire establishment. So I find it a little suspicious, to be honest with you. Not that Drake is perfect, and I'm not the biggest Drake fan. He has some bangers for sure. But it's like, don't pitch yourself as being the socially conscious guy when you're not going to say anything about the G side and U.S. support for Israel. You're socially conscious so far as it's like liberal and socially acceptable. How can I join the ACP in San Diego? All you got to do, brother, is download a Telegram account and go to acp.us. And then there will be a join button there. Please do. We would love to have you. Do it right now. Do it right now or I will jump off my porch. Thank you for the gold boxing glove. Everybody in this chat, all 95 of you, all 99 of you now, if you're not in the ACP, download Telegram. There's 100 now. Download Telegram and go to acp.us and click the join button and follow the instructions. Otherwise, this is the last stream I'll ever do. I better see that we gained at least 50 members. Or I'm deleting my TikTok account forever. To be fair, he doesn't pitch himself that way. People just ascribe that to him. I think he does, though. Let me put y'all on game. Let me teach y'all a thing or two about American history. But I'm not going to say anything about the genocide in Gaza. I don't know. It's lame to me. Green Book. I have the Green Book. I've read it. Would you rather live in Oregon or Washington? Oregon, because it's closer to where my brother lives in Idaho. Do you live in Cedar Rapids? No, I don't, actually. I'm somewhat close. I support you, bro. Thank you, brother. I live in Sweden. Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah, you can't join the ACP then, but you can support us. You can fund us. Thoughts on CPUSA? They're not communist anymore. They're a liberal organization. Unfortunately. Is ACP recognized in Maryland? Yeah, we have a Maryland chapter. We have a Maryland chapter. And they're based as hell. There's no left in Sweden. Oh, yeah. At least you have healthcare. Favorite NBA team? I'm a Sixers fan. We just got LeBron. I have an Allen Iverson jersey that I wear on stream sometimes. Are there any ACP people in Portland I can meet? I'm sure there are. I can ask the Oregon chapter exec. What makes CPUSA and DSA liberals? They both support the Democratic Party. So CPUSA sees Trump as being so bad that they need to support the Democrats and vote for them, even if they commit G-side and are controlled by plutocrats, as your name, as I'm assuming you know based on your name, anti-plutocrat. And the DSA, the CPUSA doesn't do that explicitly, but they've done that ever since the 90s. When the Soviet Union fell, they basically threw in the towel and gave up on communism and just started backing the Democrats and saying they're better than the Republicans, even though they're two wings of the same bird. And the DSA isn't even a party by their own admission. They're just like an organization that tries to turn the Democrats more left. So they're liberal because of their support for a liberal political party. Simple as that. CPUSA used to be awesome, but it was really, I mean, they were going downhill before the 90s. Even in the Khrushchev era, because they were just like, this is one thing ACP does better than even the old party, is like the ACP is adapting Marxism to America's specific conditions today. Right, we have an independent political line based on where Americans are at politically and an independent strategy. The CPUSA, as based as they used to be, were like taking orders from Moscow. They were just like, whatever Moscow wants us to say and do, we're going to do, because they're, you know, they know more than us because the Soviet Union has state power. And that led to a lot of problems, like when Khrushchev was in power, because Khrushchev kind of sucked, so they were taking cues from Khrushchev, who didn't know what the hell he was doing, and was a reformist dingbat. So that sowed the seeds of a lot of the problems that came later with the CPUSA. But, yeah. Not that the CPC in China wants to tell the American Communist Party what to do. But even if they wanted to, which they don't, we would say, no, you know, we'll be cooperative with you guys. We'll take advice from you, but we're not just going to take orders. We have our own political line. And, like, there is some truth to the idea of Soviet social imperialism. Like, there were a lot of communist parties in, like, Iran and the U.S. and other places in the world that were just listening to whatever the Soviet Union told them to do or whatever Moscow told them to do in the CCCP. And it, like, fucked them over in the end. Like, during the Iran crisis, the Tudeh party went along with what the CCCP wanted them to do in supporting Balkanization of Iran. And it was highly unpopular with the people, and that's how the Tudeh party lost a lot of support with the Iranian people. So, that's one of the mistakes of the past that we've learned from. We support the Soviet Union, and, you know, all the amazing things they did for workers and for helping the anti-colonial world, or like helping all these anti-colonial movements in Africa and Latin America and Asia. But there's a lot to criticize there and learn from, as there is with any country. No country will ever be perfect. Let's not blame Moscow for imperialists in the West, I guess. Well, I'm not conflating them, for sure. I'm just saying social imperialism is what it's been called. Like, Moscow telling the Tudeh party to take a certain strategy while, you know, helping to arm and fund anti-colonial movements all across Africa is not the same as the U.S. trying to colonize the entire world and assassinating any leader who wants independence in the global South. Like, It's definitely not the same thing, you know. But there were some cases where Moscow was a little bit overbearing in telling left-wing movements what to do. But no, it's definitely not like... It's not like you had red imperialism versus capitalist imperialism. These are just like mistakes I would criticize in a comradely manner. Alright, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate you for hanging out. This was a great live. We had great viewership all the way through. Thank you to all the live gifters. We made a whopping $8. Amazing. Bro, TikTok does not give you any money for these things. Whoa, thank you, Xavier. Like on YouTube, if I stream for a while, I'm making at least probably 100 if I streamed for this long on YouTube. But I like talking to more people. I feel like we get more growth for the ACP when I stream on TikTok. Plus, we're up to $9 now. Ooh, we are rich, bro. The ACP's treasury is growing. Thank you all for the gifts. acp.us/join. Patreon.com/MidwesternMarks if you actually want to support me financially and not have TikTok rob you of all your money. Tickets to the Marxism Conference, September 4th and 5th in Chicago, where you can meet me and your favorite guy, and Butch Ware and Rathbone and Carlos Garrido and more, and Mocha Yappuccino. Those are in my bio, just $20 for the whole thing, and we'll have food and drink for you as well. An open bar. Just kidding. But I think we might have drinks available if you want to get turned to some Marxism. But that's all from me, y'all. Thanks for hanging out today.